Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Buffalo Roundup, your podcast home for all things VHS Buffalo athletics. It's made by the Buffalo, for the Buffalo. Cody Hills, joined of course by my partner, Marty Zero. And Marty, we got teased ever so slightly on Monday with some cooler weather. Cool in the morning, but then today it's hot again. I think we're reminded it's Florida. And even though there's football, we don't have football weather quite yet.
It's a tease because it's back to 90 today as we're recording this. And looking out there at the football team behind us, I'm glad we're inside.
Yeah, helmets and pads does not look very fun to be wearing right now. We'll stick to the air conditioning and the climate-controlled podcast studio here today. Well, we got a big episode for you. Of course, the Buffalo football team got off to a big start, a 53-0 big old donut for the rival Wildcats in Week 1 to kick off this 2025 season. Of course, our Buffalo cross-country team also getting off to a sweep victory at Wildwood as well last Saturday. We'll touch on the runners, of course. And then also, even bowling picking up their first victory last week. We'll also touch on VHS volleyball. The list goes on. And hey, we even got some more fall sports starting this week. Swimming, the first swim meet coming to you later today, Thursday. So looking forward to all that and more here on this edition of the Buffalo Roundup. And a reminder, as you wait for each new edition of the Buffalo Roundup, you can find all you need to know about the Village's high school sports at any time on our athletics website. We've got a digital home just for you. That's where you'll find scores, schedules, rosters, and other information such as ticketing and live stream broadcasts of Buffalo athletic programs right at your fingertips. Be sure to check us out online today at athletics.tvcs.org. Well, Marty, week 1 of the high school football season underway, and the Buffalo got off to a rousing start, 53-0 over Wildwood here last Friday night at H.G. Moore Stadium. Big-time victory. It was our first real look, hey, this game counts, at this 2025 Buffalo football team. Looking back now, a few days removed, what's your first kind of takeaways of this VHS football squad?
Oh, I think the biggest takeaway for this year is this team is kind of writing their own destiny. There's not many teams in our district or region that are just outright stoppers. Obviously, Coco's the big one waiting at the end, but we saw the flashes of excitement, the flashes of even perfection. There was a little bit of perfection in the game, and that's really what the coaches will start to grab a hold of what did we do really well, what didn't we do well. I think the biggest thing is that they came into the game, high emotions, right? Rivalry week, a lot of talk on social media before the game, and it almost seems like they got that emotion and bottled it and put it just like right into the direction of we're going to do what we need to do to win. Don't let all that other stuff distract us. And, you know, that's a credit to your leaders, your captains. That's a credit to your coaches. But honestly, every player wearing a Buffalo uniform deserves a big gold star, if you will, just the way they behaved and the way they held themselves.
Yeah, you mentioned it. There was a lot throughout the week. We'll leave it at that. There's a lot of chatter, as there usually is in the rivalry week. But it seemed like there was a message sent throughout the week from Coach Pettis and from those 4 captains you mentioned, Jeremiah Wimes, Brady Hunt, Cole Logan, and Brett Widman. We're going to do our talking at kickoff at 7 p.m. on Friday night. The Buffalo did plenty of talking, the 53-0 win.
I'm not sure it was talk. I think it was more of yell.
More and more screaming, I guess, on the scoreboard. 53-0. The offense, extremely solid. I think 9 of the 11 drives started in Wildwood territory. That's a credit to the defense, which forced 5 turnovers. A shutout to start the season, of course, as we mentioned, 53-0. But then Marty also played a really good brand of complementary football. And that's what Coach Pettis kind of talked about after the game was, look, the defense put us in some really good spots, held Wildwood to 44 yards of offense on 44 plays from scrimmage. So a yard a play is a pretty good ratio. But the turnovers, the short field, when you put that together, you're going to be in for a good week more often than not.
Yeah, and I think the biggest stat that talks on the offensive side is it was 55% run, 45% passing. If you're able to get stuff done and splitting that in half, you've got a football team that is ready to compete no matter what the other team throws at you. We're going to see it. Last week against Wildwood, you're probably looking more towards using your size to an advantage, using the running, using your line as your advantage. This week, Lecanto, that type of opponent, you're probably looking at let's get our athletes out there making plays for us.
Yeah, I think it's a multifaceted attack. I think that's something that the Buffalo and Coach Pettis have working for them, is that they can maybe try to win in different ways. That's more, usually you think of that more of a basketball thing, right? You either want to go fast, maybe more physical. I think it's a luxury this Buffalo football team might have throughout this year, where they want to get in space or maybe keep it between the tackles, play a more physical game. Let's touch a little bit. Of course, it's not all rainbows and sunshine all the time, especially for head coach Richard Pettis and any football coach after week one. Let's talk about maybe what we think some areas of improvement coming out of that kickoff classic game against Harmony, the fall classic, the preseason matchup. We talked maybe it was special teams. Well, then what did the Buffalo do? Well, Keenan Boozer, a 45-yard field goal, the longest make in a while for this program. You had Kevontae Corbin almost housing a punt return. Kevontae Corbin then gets a punt block. Seemed like special teams was good for the most part, but what are you looking at for them to shore up week 1 to week 2 coming into this matchup with Lecanto?
I think the number one thing is the offensive line. It's what's going to keep letting the Buffalo have a balanced attack. Honestly, watching the film back after the game, it looks like all of their run sets, all their run packages, the blocking was great. If anything, it's pass blocking, which I think if you ask any high school football coach in Florida, they're going to tell you that's what comes together last. Run blocking is pretty easy. You usually just assign somebody in front of you and get them out of the way. Pass blocking, you're having to pick some stuff up. And we saw that a little bit. The Wildwood defense, to their credit, there was a bit of stunting, there was a bit of crossing, there was a bit of outside rushes that it's difficult to pick that up, especially as a high schooler. So I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to be an improvement week by week there. If I had to pick one other area that's not that, I would probably want to say it's still special teams, but it's on the kickoffs when we're kicking the ball off. You can kind of see there's some guys still hesitant about what lane they need to fill. Fortunately, Keenan Boozer, cannon of a leg, he put it through the back of the end zone twice. So, you don't really have to worry about it then, but there's going to be either unfavorable conditions where the wind's in your face, or there's just going to be times where you don't make solid contact with that ball. And the last thing you want to do on the kickoff is let an offense start anywhere plus 25 or more, because in high school, the touchback is still at the 20-yard line. So I think that's the two things. And, they started today's practice with the special teams period, and they're wrapping that up going into their next stuff. So obviously the coaches are aware of it.
Yeah, I'll add just a little touch too. We mentioned the balance with the run and the pass. Run game, probably a little bit more to be desired there. I think VHS only finished with, I want to say 26, 28 yards rushing, somewhere in there. Now, a lot of that was because of some sack yardage. Jay Kennedy took a couple sacks, maybe going back to your point on the pass blocking, needing to shore up a little bit. We'll see if that run game can get going as well. Trenard Roberts suffered a lower leg injury in that one. His status for this week is questionable for Lecanto, but if he is not able to go, of course, you feel really good about Cole Logan in the backfield, Jonathan Williams as well, and maybe some other pieces stepping up as well. McGuire Mellinger had another touchdown for him, had one in that fall classic, and then one in the opener against Wildwood. Not bad for a freshman, 41.
Not bad at all, and the only thing really the problem is he's only going to have 2 quarters of eligibility, because I bet he plays all 4 for the JV on Thursday. So, they get 6 quarters, and I would say he's one of those pieces that the coaching staff view as your full-time JV. You're the core of that offense, but hey, you can contribute on varsity. The Coach Richard Pettis has never been shy from coming up with run packages, especially featuring multiple backs, and especially a kid like Mellinger that runs very similar to Cole Logan, more of the power back that is favored with their inside run packages.
Yeah, very much downhill. Speaking of downhill, we'll touch quickly on the opponent this week. That is Lecanto, coming off a victory over Westport week 1 last week. Marty, this is a team that had the Buffalo's number last year, 38-0 over in Citrus County. That was a game for the Buffalo that was marred by turnovers, marred by penalties. If you need to get your dictionary out, marred meaning it was just covered in a bad way with it. The Buffalo did not have a good night over there a year ago last August. It's a very big physical team, offensive line. I think a couple 300-pounders on that offensive line. You're going to need to get ready to play a physical battle, but of course, maybe want to play to your strengths and some of the speed on outside we mentioned earlier as well.
Yeah, and I think, last year, almost the same situation, coming off of a win against Wildwood, having to go face an opponent that is a completely different style of football team. Wildwood, typically shifty, athletic, ready to make you miss in space. This Lecanto team, if it's the Lecanto team we've seen for about the past half decade, it's going to be all power formations running. They do have a couple pieces on the outside, but really it's all about between the tackles. Honestly, if if my memory serves me right, watching that live stream back. I remember I watched it, and the thing that bothered me the most was just how ugly and dirty it was by the penalties, by the mistakes. It's almost a situation where, Lecanto was the better football team and they won the game and beat us, but really we beat ourselves. We didn't even give ourselves a chance last year. And I think that, if you're talking to any coach, they would say, you know what, if another team's just better than us, let it happen. But if we're going to let them beat us because we can't take care of what we need to take care of, that's unacceptable. And I think that's this week's message going into the game.
So we'll see if the Buffalo can get a win. Again, 7 p.m. kickoff here at H.G. Moore Stadium Friday night. $8 tickets at the door. You can get them early in advance, gofan.co. Search for the Villages. And if you can't make it out for whatever reason, of course, we'll have the live stream broadcast here for you right on our athletics website.
Yeah, and you just mentioned GoFan. Anybody out there listening to this, wanting to come, you can be in attendance for any of the home games this fall or in the future seasons here at the Villages Charter School by going to our partner GoFan, the official ticketing platform of the Buffalo. You can purchase our annual pass or individual game and event tickets right there on your phone, tablet, laptop, or computer in minutes. Find us on GoFan today by visiting gofan.co and typing the Villages into the search bar, or you can also go to our athletics website and click the link at the top of the page.
All right, Marty, we're going to keep it outdoors. We're going to take the helmet and pads off, though. I'll start here with cross country, the Buffalo.
I still don't want to be talking about outdoors.
And look, I don't want to recreationally run either, but we're going to give these guys their due, guys and gals their due, because they certainly deserve it, picking up a season-opening win, first meet of the year at Wildwood last Saturday. So after the Wildcats, they didn't have enough of us Friday night here on the gridiron. They got to see us run there on their campus as well Saturday. Really good, strong performance by both the boys and girls teams. The boys sweeping the victory. A 6-team field. It was a little bit wonky, Marty. There was a lot of kids out for the Buffalo, a lot of athletes who actually maybe had been one of the top finishers for VHS, dealing with the SAT testing. Got to remember, student athletes, right? Student comes first. The Buffalo still prevailing in a 6-team field. I think the boys' time, average time was 20 minutes, 14 seconds. Nate Burton leading the way and Roberto Rivero as well, just a few ticks behind him. On the girls' side, 26:34 average. Catherine Easley and Aubrey Bolenbach leading the point there. Marty, I just want to touch on real quickly, it's not just exclusive to cross country, but I'm going to take this more general and broad. When you're missing some top athletes like this cross-country team was with the SAT testing, smaller meet, sort of an early season invitational, but you still prevail, how good of a sign is that, knowing maybe you didn't have the A squad there, but yet, sure enough, you still prevail and have a really good showing?
Yeah, I think it's a great situation to be in where you just know that the squad is only going to improve from this point as you add in those pieces. I think the other thing to consider is cross-country. We talk about the training and we talk about getting in condition. We talk about wanting to, make their times smaller and smaller so they're going faster and faster. But the one wrench that you throw in every time is, what does the course look like? And, I think that's one thing that this also talks about is the cross-country team has been training here at the school. They've been running at the Polo Club. They've been running throughout the Middleton community. They're kind of training for almost anything. And I think that's where this week is leading, or last week led to. And now as the season keeps going, those athletes now as they slot back in, we're probably going to see that total team average just drop. And that'll be, as they go in. It always seems like every year the cross-country team we trust to get through districts, and it's the regions and the states is when we start talking about, okay, where do we stack up in the list of schools? And, usually they're pretty successful in both boys and girls at the regional competition. So I think this week they're probably just looking at, okay, let's actually get a real picture of what our team looks like. They'll be out at Whispering Pines this week over in Inverness. So if I remember correctly, that course is a bit more of like the Florida scrub woodland with a little bit of swamp thrown in.
Definitely a different look for the cross-country teams this weekend. Wish them well as they get set to go for meet number 2. Hopefully keep their winning ways going. Speaking of winning ways, the VHS bowling team started their season off with a pair of victories as well, sweeping Umatilla last Wednesday at AMF Leesburg Lanes over in Leesburg. Really strong start for both squads. A couple of shout-outs here. Braden Lightbourne led the way for the boys. He rolled a 244 his first game. I'm not sniffing 244. I don't know about you.
I don't think so.
Good for you, Braden. And then on the girls' side, Amelia O'Brien. Of course, you might know her name from the Buffalo Flag football team, Vikings. darn good bowler as well, which isn't that funny? I feel like we always see a crossover between football and bowling. I think you and I maybe were talking about that recently about.
Yeah, we almost wish the bowling season could move to the spring so
Yes.
some of our football guys could send that rock down the lane.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some guys over there that could get it going.
I'm sure there is, but you see it also too. There's a lot of NFL guys who do the bowling events, and then some NBA guys as well. The athletes,
Former VHS athlete, noted bowling fan, and very accomplished bowler, Trey Mann.
Okay.
Yeah,
So there you go.
Even here, when he was at the Villages, he would be bowling over in Spanish Springs at least once a week. And now that he's in the NBA, whenever they get a chance, it seems like that's his preferred outing. I believe he's come close to touching 300 a few times.
Hold on, everyone. Don't let your parents tell you don't learn anything on the Buffalo Roundup. You just learned Trey Mann, a McDonald's All-American, Florida Gator, NBA guy, as a bowler. You wouldn't get that information anywhere else than from my guy right here. But yeah, shout out to Braden Lightbourne again, the 244, getting the boys off to a really good start. Amelia O'Brien, back-to-back 181 performances on the pinfall for her. Congratulations to those teams. Of course, they're back in action this week as well. They're going just about every single week, just with all of our other teams. So if you can get out to AMF Leesburg Lanes, check out their schedule on athletics.tvcs.org and catch them out. Maybe go take in, never can go wrong with some bowling alley food and fare as well while you're out there. And of course, if you can't make it out to the bowling alley or any of our events, be sure to follow along with all the action and all of our teams through our VHS Buffalo social media channels. Check out our Facebook page listed as VHS Buffalo Athletics. Our X account, of course, X formerly known as Twitter, can be found at Villages Buffalo, and we're the same there on Instagram as well. You can find photos, videos, and more through our social media channels. And as always, we thank you for your support and your following of VHS Athletics. All right, Marty, a couple more sports to touch on here as we wrap up this edition of the Buffalo Roundup. We'll start inside with the VHS volleyball team. 1-2 mark coming into a match on Wednesday night. You can catch that result on our athletics website, athletics.tvcs.org. Be able to get the results there. They hosted Forest on Wednesday night, had a 1-2 mark coming into that. The last time we spoke to you here on Buffalo Roundup, lost a tough one to The Rock, a perennial powerhouse program up out of Gainesville. But then they're getting ready to go here. A couple matches this upcoming week. And then before you know it, we'll have our Buffalo Stampede Showdown, first ever inaugural event here next Friday and Saturday. Before we get to that, though, Marty, this VHS volleyball team, we've talked about it before. A lot of new faces and new places. A lot of girls finding their roles on this team. You really trust Michelle Mormon, I think, to find those pieces and find the right spots, and then maybe really the Buffalo Stampede Showdown could be a time for that team to maybe break out.
Yeah, I think this opening to the season is almost like, here's our early test. What's our base level going forward? They've faced, so far as we're recording this, 3 regional level opponents. The Rock probably even close if they were in the FHSA to state championship. And now tonight as we're recording it, taking on Forest, another team that is perennial in the regional semi to championship round. I do think the Buffalo Stampede Showdown, it's set up where basically, in fact, I sat down with Michelle Mormon and we ranked all 16 teams and we basically went 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So your pool play, you face opponents that are better or worse than you, and then you get sorted into the bracket play based on that. It'd be really great to see the Buffalo, if they can win all 3 of their pool games, make it to the gold bracket and see what they can do. Other teams coming to the tournament, the Rock, Foundation Academy, Lake Mineola, probably the other top teams, and then many others are coming as well. A couple teams from Citrus, Hernando County, that type of thing. It's really just a continual buildup. They only get 2 months of a season, so they really have to game by game make progression. And being able to steal 1 set off of the Rock is probably where you need to hang and figure out, okay, what did it take to do that? Similar to how they took 1 set from the first academy. Okay, how did we do that? And start piecing those together. And if you could piece 3 of those together against a really good opponent, then you have the capability of taking 3 sets, especially as we get into our district and region here in a month and a half.
And again, we teased that Buffalo Stampede Showdown. That's next Friday and Saturday here on campus inside the Buffalo Sports Complex. You can already look ahead to it if you'd like. You can get your tickets. $15 per day will get you in. That's through Ticket Leap, so a little bit different ticketing platform, but Ticket Leap, of course, we'll have them available at the door as well. And if you want to already mark it down on your schedule, next Friday, September 5th, Buffalo will play at 3 p.m., 5 p.m., and 8 p.m. So come on in, $15. You get 3 matches. That's a pretty darn good deal here for that one. So that'll be the Buffalo Stampede tournament, Buffalo Stampede Showdown. We'll talk more about that on next week's episode as well. Finally, Marty, last sport we're going to touch on here on this episode, swimming and diving, officially getting ready to go here later today, Thursday here, getting set to go. The season opener, swim and dive, Bellevue and Leesburg coming to town. First off, we're offering a new offering with it. We're going to live stream it for the first time on TVCS Live. So let's talk about that first. How excited are you? Of course, you and Drew Shaltry, our colleague, kind of spearhead our live stream movement to add another sport to the TVCS Live catalog.
I'm extremely excited about the opportunity to have another sport, especially swimming. It's funny, swimming every 4 years comes to the forefront of the American mindset with the Olympics. But here at VHS, every end of July, August, it comes to the forefront. And, it's one of those things. Every varsity athlete deserves the coverage that our platform has been able to provide. TVCS Live, created with the opening of our Middleton campus, but really it started a few years prior with the basketball team and the gym at the Buffalo Ridge campus just reaching capacity basically every single night. So I think that's where it's at is we're adding sports on consistently one by one. We still have a few on-campus sports to figure out how do you live stream and what gives quality for it. But yeah, I'm excited to see our swim team. According to head coach Jackie Mitchell, everything I've heard is positive. She's been I don't want to say floored, but just absolutely impressed and gushing over the improvements they've made since they started working out in July. And I think there's going to be a couple key swimmers this year that maybe you haven't heard their name before come out into the forefront and at least start registering times that look good for regionals and states. Swimming a little bit different, even though yes, every race awards a winner, and they give a boys and a girls score, so you can split a meet or whatever. When it comes down to districts and regionals, all that matters are regionals and states. All that matters are the swimmers that qualify. Right. So your goal is to qualify as many as possible, and that gives you the best chance to win. I believe last year when they had to the state meet, we ended up in the top 10 of all the swim teams at the state meet, and that was by qualifying only 3 or 4 athletes on the girls' side. So really, you look to see if you can qualify 8, 9 athletes. I believe you want 16 in total for all the races, and then you have to have 11 divers. And if I start getting into swimming scoring, I'll probably lose myself. But you come out to the VHS Aquatic Center on Thursday, 5 o'clock. The lights are going to be on, so as it gets dark, it turns into a lit swim meet, and you're going to see some of the fastest buffalo in the water that you'll ever see.
Yeah, really excited for it. Of course, excited for the season opener for them, but also, as Marty mentioned, my partner here, excited to get the opportunity to do the live stream. It's really cool, adding other sports, as Marty said. Track, we're looking at you next. Don't you worry, we're trying to figure you out. Just got a couple left to check off here on campus. Excited about those possibilities. But yes, also, too, it'd be remiss not to mention year 2 of the diving program here as well, right? So getting that up and running. Of course, Heather Tomasian, head coach, or at least the diving specialty coach there. So looking forward to that. That's Thursday, 5 p.m. Of course, we have volleyball. That'll be tonight on Wednesday, so you have to check our athletics website for a recap on that. And then, of course, Friday, 7 p.m., football here, VHS and Lecanto. Get your tickets already at gofan.co or get them here at the gate. It's going to do it, Marty. I think we just about touched on everything here.
We didn't talk about golf, but girls golf has their first match next week, so I think we'll be able to feature them a bit more on next week's episode.
Sure will.
Start talking about boys and girls golf a bit.
Yeah, boys golf was rained out. Their first match. They're back in action.
Might be all we get to say about
it.
It
might be the way this fall's going. I joked with Wade Martin at their first match last week, and I think he had said that some guys had just had about 12 holes of actual practice this fall leading up to the season. That was it. So haven't even got a full 18 holes in as they prepare for their season. But that's going to do it on this edition of the Buffalo Roundup. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Of course, let us know what you'd love to see on here. We'd be glad to talk about it. My broadcast partner, Marty Zuro. I guess broadcast, I'm used to saying that. My podcast partner, Marty Zuro, Cody Hills. And as we always tell the folks, Marty, go Buffalo.